Could this war end in nuclear disaster? Not the kind you're thinking about. I'm talking about a nuclear accident, perhaps an attack on power plants or a leak from a nuclear reactor. In Ukraine, this is a real risk. And I will tell you why. There are 4 nuclear power plants in Ukraine. Together, they operate 15 reactors. Almost 52% of Ukraine's electricity comes from these plants. For any invader, these reactors are a target. You capture them, you plunge Ukraine into darkness. But a nuclear plant is not an ordinary strategic asset. It's not like a port or a highway. You can't just drop bombs on it or march your soldiers in. Nuclear plants are a high-risk target. One wrong move, one inaccurate strike, and you could unleash a massive nuclear tragedy. So naturally, Ukraine is worried. Russia has already captured one high-risk target, the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The whole area is now under Russian control. Ukraine says radiation levels are spiking, but experts say a nuclear disaster is highly unlikely. After all, the plant is defunct. The bigger worry is down south. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It is home to 6 reactors. It is the 10th largest nuclear plant in the world, and right now it is on Russia's radar. Their troops have already encircled the city. The question is, how will they enter? These are pictures from the outskirts of the nuclear plant. This is what Russia will have to overcome, a human barricade. Hundreds of residents, including the plant workers, have blocked roads leading into the city.
I'm grateful and amazed at the courage and heroism of our residents, who went out without weapons and built a human chain with a length of more than a kilometer and did not let enemy equipment and the enemy into the city.
That spirit is admirable, but it's also worrying. What if Russia escalates the offensive around the nuclear plant? I'm not talking about a direct strike. I'm talking about a mistake. This war has already exposed Russian hardware problems. Their precision strikes are not always precise. So what's the solution? Ukraine pushed for 2 demands. Number 1, a no-fly zone around the nuclear plants. And number 2, a 30-kilometer safe zone which Russia cannot breach. In other words, leave the nuclear plants out of the war. To discuss these demands, the United Nations Atomic Watchdog met on Tuesday. Its Director General had one message: do not endanger the reactors.
The situation in Ukraine is unprecedented, and I continue to be gravely concerned. It is the first time a military conflict is happening amidst the facilities of a large established nuclear power program, which in this case also include the site of the 1986 accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The safety and security of nuclear facilities and nuclear and other radioactive material in Ukraine must, under no circumstances, be endangered.
Statements done. The next agenda was to pass a resolution. Now, this is a sensitive subject. The International Atomic Energy Agency has a very narrow mandate: only nuclear affairs. Politics and power plays are not their business. But today, the agency made an exception. Their resolution makes 2 political statements. Number 1, a condemnation of Russia's invasion, and number 2, a Russian pullback from all nuclear sites. What does that mean? A, they must vacate Chernobyl, and B, they must not target other nuclear plants. Now, technically, this resolution is not binding. Russia can still take over Ukrainian nuclear plants. Having said that, it's another diplomatic blow. Here's how Russia's ambassador to the IAEA responded. The Board of Governors resolution on nuclear security in Ukraine contains intentional, politically motivated lies and mistakes. We asked 3 times to provide concrete facts in this regard. Total silence in response. Of course, Russia was livid. But here's a bigger question. We have seen wars before. We have seen airstrikes on strategic assets before. Why has this one triggered a nuclear concern? For starters, Ukraine's dependence on nuclear energy, 15 reactors, is a lot. No other war in history has been fought in a region so reliant on nuclear energy. Secondly, these are old reactors. Most of them date back to the 1980s. We do not know how secure these facilities are or whether they can withstand attacks. One big worry is the cooling system. To keep it running, you need 24/7 electricity. But what if Russia unplugs the power grid? What if an airstrike cuts off electricity? Worst case scenario, it could be another Fukushima. So when we talk about the nuclear threat, this angle must be considered. 2 Ukrainian nuclear plants are in the middle of the war zone. The other 2 are in the northwest, still mostly isolated from the fighting. There are 100 reasons why Russia should stop this war. This nuclear risk is another one. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.